Okay, so let's look at the set builder solution. Remember, the solution when we did it with roster method for natural numbers bigger than 7 was 8, 9, 10 onwards, right? So what is the answer in terms of set builder notation? Well, here's what set builder notation is. First of all, set builder notation, you're going to say the set of. So these are braces on the outside, okay? The set of, and then you have X, and then you have this vertical bar. So what's that vertical bar mean? That vertical bar means such that. Now you should be able to read the rest of this. This says X is an element of n. That n here stands for natural numbers, and X is greater than 7. So there were two different things that we had to think about here. First of all, it had to be a natural number. Second of all, it had to be bigger than 7. So we had two conditions here. It's a natural number and it's bigger than 7. So this is set builder notation. All set builder notation is going to start off with the same way. You don't have to use the letter X, but I always do. So it says it will always start as the set of X such that, and then you put whatever your restrictions were there. We had two restrictions. Had to be a natural number and had to be greater than 7. That is set builder notation. It says put any restrictions on X in the blank. You do not have to use X. You can use any letter. So let's look at example 9 here. Really, really, really important you're reading directions. Why is it important you read directions? Because this says set builder notation. If you used roster method, I cannot give you credit, even if your answer is right. If you put it in roster method, I cannot give you credit for the problem. If it says set builder, you have to put your answer in set builder. If it says roster, you have to put your answer in roster. So you have to reread your problems and make sure you're writing your answers in the proper formats. Okay, let's look at this. It says, what is the set of integers greater than -3? So I see two restrictions here. The first restriction I see is it has to be an integer. The second restriction I see is that it has to be greater than -3. So how am I going to write this? Well, X as an integer can be written as, you could literally write it in English language and just say X is an integer. But here we're going to say X is an element of, and then I'm going to put that script I for integers. If you just put a regular I, that's perfectly fine. X is greater than -3 is written as X greater than sign -3. So there's my two restrictions. So what would it be? We would have the set of X such that every one of them has to start that way. Now I write my restrictions. X is an element of the integers, and X is greater than -3. Okay, so that's the mathematical way of doing it, but I told you you did not have to use that math notation. You didn't have to use that math language. So you really could have, in English written, X is an integer. And if you wrote that in English language, in English words, I would still give you credit for this problem, even if you just wrote it in English and didn't use the math symbols. Okay? Let's look at the next one. It says the set of whole numbers less than 1,000. So think about your restrictions there. How many restrictions do you have? Well, I see two restrictions. It has to be a whole number, and the second restriction is it has to be less than 1,000. So let's write our answer here. It's going to be the set of X such that. Now we do our first restriction. X is a whole number. And we do our second restriction, X is less than 1,000. So that would be the proper way of writing it in set builder notation. Why are we covering set builder notation? Because sometimes it's easier to describe sets using set builder notation. When you get to graduate or advanced mathematics, higher level mathematics, we will use a lot of set builder notation. For you guys, I care just very, very minimum. Could you write a set in set builder notation, and can you read set builder notation? That's truly, honestly, what I care about. Can you read it and understand what it means? Let's try example 10 here. It says use set builder notation to write the following sets. The set of integers less than 9. Again, most important part is, are you writing your answer in the proper format? Remember, this is set builder notation, so immediately I know that the answer has to look like a brace and X as such that for both of these problems. Set builder notation, I want to remind myself. Okay, what are my restrictions? Well, let's go ahead and take a look. The set of integers, so it has to be an integer. Let me go ahead and use a different color to emphasize. Has to be an integer, and it also has to be less than 9. So let's write our two restrictions there. The set of X such that X is an element of the integers, and X is less than 9. X is less than 9. Okay, there'd be my answer for that problem right there. Let's look at the next one. It says we have to write it again in set builder notation. Set builder notation. We have that it has to be a natural number and it has to be greater than 4. So I'm just going to write X an element of the natural numbers and X is greater than 4. Okay, again, you could write those words in English. You don't have to use the math symbols. If you use English, I'm still giving you full credit. All right, let's look at the next one. It says a set is finite if the number of elements in the set is a whole number. The cardinal number of a finite set is the number of elements in the set. So if someone says what's the cardinal number, it's the number of elements in the set. The cardinal number of a finite set, A, is denoted by n of A. So anytime you see this notation, this n and then parentheses, it's read as n of, it just means what's the number of elements in A. How many things are there? It's called the cardinality. It says, for instance, if A is 1, 4, 6, 9, the set containing 1, 4, 6, 9, then n of A is 4. Why is n of A 4? Because there are 4 elements in the set. It says, in this case, A has cardinal number of 4, which is sometimes stated as A has the cardinality of 4, or the cardinality of A is 4. So what I want you to do is I want you to realize this, and I always mess with my students here on the board. I say, okay, tell me the cardinality of the set 1, 2, 3. Okay, what's the cardinality of the set, meaning how many elements are in the set? And the answer would be, hopefully you see that it's 3 elements. Then if I said, what's the cardinality of 1, 1, 2, 3, 3? Okay. What's the cardinality of this set? And the answer is still 3. Why is the answer 3? Well, the first thing I taught you with roster method, first thing I said is if you see any repeats, you must remove them. It's redundant. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is remove any repeats and then redo the set. If I remove the repeats, I have a second version of 1 and I have a second version of 3. So you must remove the repeats first. So anytime you see that n of notation, whatever's in there, it's the number of elements in the set. That's all that notation means. The cardinality, find the cardinality, which means find the number of distinct elements in the set.